Didn't die. That's good. Good not to die over summer, you know.
Avoiding death for one more.
Kia ora guys, welcome back to the first Wholesome half hour for 2019. If you don't know me, my name's Sarah. I hope you know me, but
yeah,
anything's possible.
Yeah, at this point. I'm Mackenzie. Also someone who you should probably be too familiar with at this point.
Unfortunately, yeah. We're still here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I didn't...
we made it through summer.
Yeah.
We didn't get fired.
We didn't get fired. I'm very surprised I was reemployed this year.
He's kidding.
Staff Christmas party, you know, it's an interesting experience.
Treacherous.
Yeah, but no, I'm still here.
Bless.
Still employed.
For another year?
For one more year. Or maybe not, who knows, I might get made redundant tomorrow. Anything's a possibility.
Everyone in the comments, just give us reasons why you think Sarah should be fired.
Yeah. No, don't do that. Awesome. So on today's show, we wanted to talk about, like, we asked you guys for your questions, and we have heaps of questions surrounding the new year approaching school.
Yep.
Before we get into that, we wanted to ask you for a couple of things. Firstly, for this show and future shows this year, if you see like any sections that you think are really good, ideally 60 seconds or under, post the timestamps, like from this timestamp to this timestamp, and say like what it was and or why you liked it. And we're going to try and clip those and put those out on Instagram as like, you know, 30-second videos.
Highlight reels and stuff like that as well.
If heaps of people do that, so if like a bunch of you jump in the comments and do that, we will send out like a prize to one of you.
Don't ask us what it is yet, we haven't decided.
I haven't decided, but maybe
there'll be something.
Give away some caps, something like that.
Yeah.
If you have an idea of what you want, you can say that as well. And the other thing was, just here we were wondering, there's a number of things we were wondering.
We wonder things.
And we were thinking, or we were wondering if you guys would be interested if we brought other people on the show, and if so, what kind of people, and what would you like them to talk about?
Yep.
Like, would you be interested in hearing about people who decided not to go to university, or people who had interesting career paths, or like whatever? Like, what are you interested in seeing us do?
And this could even be something like 1 week we might get like one of our tutors or something to come in and talk about like a topic that we don't know a lot about, because we do understand that our knowledge of NCA isn't extensive, and you know, we know our subjects, but there's a lot out there that we don't as well. So if there's any like big subjects or something like that you'd like us to have someone in and come and talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's also something that could potentially be arranged.
Yeah, anything like that, or if you're interested in hearing, I don't know, like what's the future, where science careers going, like literally anything, like let us know and we'll try and make it happen. Do that in the comments below. Yep. The other thing, and what would you like to see on our show in general? You should let us know. The other thing was, we're bored. This has been our set for over 1 full year now, so it's over a year now.
Tried and true.
So it is time for a refresh.
Yeah.
Haven't got the spending authorised with the boss yet, but we'll make it happen. So if you have any ideas for like
at this
themes,
point, we have colours, a vague inclination that we're bored of this.
Yeah, I'm very bored of this. This is like literally every study time video. It's just this.
Yeah.
So if you have some ideas
for spicy backgrounds,
spicy objects, whatever, you should let us know, and we'll try and make that a reality.
Within reason, team. Please.
We don't have like $1 million prop budget.
Nor do we have a green screen.
I hate green screens. As a videographer, I hate green screens with a passion.
All about that organic.
Well, it's just so...
Diegesis.
Okay, there's a time and place for green screen, right? Like if you're doing work where you need to get things out fast and you're happy with kind of that generic background, like, you know, you're kind of like, what's a good example of this? Like, what's it called? He can't remember it when he needs to. Like, there's a channel called Tech Quickie, but the one I'm thinking of is the science one, the quick one. Help me!
You're on your own.
The one with Hank Green's brother.
I don't even know who Hank Green is.
Don't worry. But like those like newsy shows where you're pumping content out, I don't mind. It's like acceptable. But for like any sort of like anything else, I think green screens are pretty boring. I don't know. They just lack character.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just like man stands in front of screen. You might as well stand in front of a white wall. Like it's the same. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Okay.
I hate green screens.
We've set our parameters. So
no
we're
green
within those,
allowed. No green screens. But anything else, any organic look is acceptable in my world.
Cool.
Is
that everything we need from the team?
I believe. I think so.
Okay.
Unless I remember anything. Oh, and you should tell your friends about this podcast. If you have, some new friends joining the NCA family, you should send them a link to this and be like,
siblings.
I love these guys. Siblings, yeah. If you're leaving high school, you should send it to your siblings. Get everyone watching.
If you're leaving high school and you're still watching, amazing.
Yeah, you should share it. You should, get
Firstly,
more people
what
watching.
are you doing here? But secondly, thank you.
Yeah, and obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, you can listen to this as an audio podcast. Subscribe at studytime.co.nz/podcast. Cool. Shall we talk about what the people want us to talk about rather than what we speculate people want us to talk about?
Yep, you know what? I like that. So thank you for everybody who did send us a question. We have sort of managed to chunk them into a few different sort of general themes that you guys seem to be asking about. So we'll start with our largest one, and that's kind of around New Year anxiety, starting either a new school, a new year group, starting NCEA, whatever it is. Everyone's, starting new things at the beginning of a new year, and that's generally quite stress-inducing. So one of the first questions that we kind of got was about how to cope with being in a class with people you don't know, or not having any friends in any classes that you have. And I think this is something that a lot of us do experience. It may only be for like one period a day or one subject, but it's definitely something that I think can be quite nerve-wracking, especially at first, I think, for a lot of students. So do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I guess it's definitely, it's especially, I don't know, I remember it was definitely something that bothered me a little bit at high school. At university, you kind of get used to being in lectures where you don't know people.
I prefer being in lectures where I don't know anyone.
Because if you don't know anyone, you can kind of just focus for the hour. But I remember at school, it's definitely something. I guess a few things, I don't know what the teachers are into these days, but if you have organised, preset organised seating, then obviously you kind of get around that problem because you have to sit where you sit. So just get to know the person on either side of you, because
is that still a thing that people do? I feel like you know very quickly what a teacher is going to be like if they give you a seating plan. Do you know what I mean?
I know it. At my school, only some teachers did it, but the teachers that did do it, a lot of them only did it at year 9 and 10. Yeah. And then it fizzled out in the later years.
I mean, I definitely remember, at least in, it might have been my bio class, I think we were given a seating plan halfway through the year because our teacher realised we couldn't be trusted with the autonomy of choosing where we sat.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the opposite problem, where there were a lot of different friend groups and we're all quite chaotic. So...
so yeah, if that's the case, you can do that. But I guess if that's not the case, I don't know.
I've definitely had this myself, being in classes with, particularly if you're with your form class for most of your main subjects, but not for your electives, which is impossible. So I think the biggest thing is you'll have an idea of some of the people in that class anyway. Having potentially gone through year 9 and 10, at least with them, maybe some other years as well. If you're a new student, sorry, but you don't know anyone at the school full stop, so I'm sure that's not the case, seeing as the question was about being in the class.
If it's a year 9 class, even if some people from previous school or whatever, that's definitely a good opportunity to be a lot of the people in that class won't know other people, so that's definitely a good opportunity to just say hi,
just be that person
to the person next to you. Most people, when you say it's one of those things where you think about it differently when you're the one doing it, but if someone else says hi to you and you don't know anyone, it actually would make you really happy. So to do that, take the initiative and do that with someone else is real.
Actually, I might link in another question. Oh, no, I won't. I'll save that for later, actually. You know what? I take that back. But I definitely think for a lot of people, especially us shy beans out there who potentially do struggle to talk to other people in an unknown environment. I know I'm one of those kind of people. I'm learning to become better at it, but I'm definitely not someone who usually introduces himself first. But it does get easier the more you do it. But I think if you don't really know people too much in your class, the only thing you can really try to do is be friendly to other people. If it is for only one period of day, I don't think it's always bad to just fly solo for that class. Like, it's not the worst thing
There's
in
nothing
the
wrong
world.
with that as well. Like,
that's absolutely fine as
like
well.
often you learn more in classes where you don't know people.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, that's definitely a
100%.
thing.
But I think regardless, organically throughout the year, you probably will find yourself becoming more close with people. I'm sorry that this isn't more concrete advice, but the only thing we can say to you with any sort of degree of certainty is after the first maybe week, it'll be fine. Even the first, like, after the first period.
Yeah, and also take comfort in the fact that, like, you are almost definitely not the only person in the class that feels that way. Like, there's almost 100%. Definitely not just one, but probably like at least 10 people in that class who like feel the same way. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and if you are someone who is a bit more of a brave being, go out there and be that person to introduce yourself first, and probably save a lot of anxiety for the other person who had no clue and was really, really nervous, because I think that's something that everyone sort of, and definitely in myself, and it's one of the reasons why I get getting better at introducing myself to other people, is bearing in mind that somebody else who's feeling nervous, they all feel exactly the same as you, and everyone wants somebody else to initiate a conversation and just introduce themselves. And I think once you sort of realise that anxiety isn't just yours, like there's probably a few other people in the class who are experiencing that same thing, I feel like it is much easier to kind of push through a little bit.
Yeah, think about it this way. If somebody else introduced themselves to you, would you ever react in a negative way? Yeah,
exactly. That's the thing. Like, I feel like everyone's so scared of this, like, straight rejection, but it's like nobody would logically do that.
Yeah, unless you learn unless you had like a really a skill with like some really interesting social dynamics.
Yeah.
100%. But for the most part, I don't think that's. I don't.
You'll be safe. Yeah. How to stay motivated, but with the knowledge that your previous year was really hard for you. So this is definitely something I think, especially for people who weren't happy with their grade results of their externals, but even if you yourself just didn't have a very good school year, no matter what level it was, that sort of definitely does taint your feelings about starting again the next year.
Have you noticed that I drank my whole coffee and you have drank like none of yours?
No.
That's my thought for the day.
Insightful?
Yeah, very
10 out of 10.
insightful.
Rate that comment in the sections, guys. Rate that comment in the sections, guys. That kind of made sense.
Yeah.
Moving on. When that last year was really tough, I think one of the biggest things too, statement or oh God, I can't remember the word. It'll come back to me later. Something to bear in mind is, try to make this year different. And your last year may not have been good for whatever reason. There's a bunch of different things that can affect your school life, not just necessarily your grades. And if you can pinpoint what exactly it was that made it really, really tough for you, maybe make that something that you're striving to make better this year. And if you are struggling to, sometimes it's just you've got this bad taste in your mouth and you don't know why. One of the biggest tips that I can sort of give people is when we do feel a certain way about something, quite often we don't pinpoint exactly what the reason is that we're feeling that way. This is something that is in one of our most recent articles that may not have actually been released yet, but it's definitely in the works, is about some common learning blocks that a lot of students have. And one of the tips that we give in there is sort of like these 5 whys. And so essentially what it is so you can say, I'm not looking forward to this new year because it's going to be difficult. And ask yourself why. And say, well, last year didn't go well. And so because I feel that, this year also won't go well for me. Well, why did last year not go well for you? And it's usually about 5 times you can ask yourself why, and you'll actually get to like the root of what it is that actually bothers you. And even just pinpointing that can be really helpful for people sometimes, because at least then you know how to work through that.
Yeah.
Kia ora.
Kia ora. This is
Matthias.
Spontaneous. This is Matthias.
Hello.
He's doing. What do you do? What do you do here?
I'm the resource manager for IE, so like
all the guides,
walkthrough guides and stuff. Yeah. That's my role.
What's your thoughts on how to stay motivated throughout like a school year?
I think something that works for me is a technique called mental contrasting, which like you think about where you were like 6 months ago, and then you think about where you are now, and you think of all the progress that you made, and then you think in another 6 months I'll be even further along, and it really helps to motivate me, like where am I going, what have I done, what have I achieved, what am I hoping to achieve.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that. That's real good.
That's real good.
Yeah.
That's definitely not something I would have said.
Yeah.
That's very good. What about
actually is real.
What about how to stay motivated when last year was really hard for you?
I think it usually helps me to like break it down, like what in particular was difficult. Like,
hey, that's what I said.
That's good.
Continuity.
Like, what did you struggle with? Like for me, time management is really difficult. And if like scheduling helps you stay, like if scheduling helps you balance the number of hours you're working or studying, that can help you to like just push through the things that you found challenging the year before and like make a plan to overcome that, I suppose.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, I guess there's definitely a lot to...
I want to pull up a chair.
I love that.
Sit behind you guys.
There's definitely a lot to acknowledging that like what's done is like in the past, and like you have to like if you don't move forward and you don't like remotivate yourself, like what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Like there's no reason that what happened in the past should dictate everything going forward.
100%.
And you're always in the position to kind of reframe your mindset and redefine like where you're going.
Yeah. Yeah. So our next question was somebody who's been put into like the extension class or accelerate, but doesn't feel like they're going to be able to keep up or compete.
Yeah.
My biggest thing is, as someone who came from as somebody who came from the accelerate, I think compete wasn't the word that they used.
Okay.
That might have been me. Make sure
Don't worry about
keep in mind that like your grades and your learning is entirely your own journey, and the grades that somebody else in your class gets has absolutely no bearing on you or your grades or your self-worth or absolutely anything like that. You've been put into extension because clearly you've shown that you are capable, and so I think the trick there is to do your best to minimise comparison between others. I think particularly for someone, if you have been put into accelerate, and they're already a group that's been there for a couple of years, because that can happen as well. That's kind of my biggest thing is competition at high school shouldn't exist.
Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah, competition at high school is like what are you competing for? Like what's the prize here?
Yeah,
like, the prize is nothing.
Yeah,
it's like not a thing. So like.
And you learn for you, so...
Yeah, like don't frame your mindset around like competing with others, like frame your mindset around like competing for you. Because if you frame your mindset around competing with others, right, when you leave high school, well, at university, you're going to realise that there's even more important people, there's even smarter people around, which you're going to like you're going to struggle to like constantly compete with. Yeah. And if you don't have people to compete with, like when you leave high school, like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Like, but if you set it around competing with yourself, you can do that.
Yep.
Forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, another thing to note is that if you've been put into an accelerated class and you feel like maybe you aren't quite up to the standard of others, one, like it's an unnecessary comparison, but also two, the teachers, as Mackenzie said, have probably put you in that class for a reason. Mm-hmm. They've recognised some potential that you have. And that means that you have the opportunity to live up to some potential that they think that you might have, and you should just like trust them that they know what they're doing and they know that they've put you in the right place.
Yeah. And
maybe it'll push you to work a little bit harder.
Maybe. And also on top of that, teachers and stuff there are there to talk to. So if you are feeling that you are struggling with any of your content or being able to keep up in class, regardless if you're in accelerate or any level, just in class in general, really having that transparency and that communication with your teachers about how you're coping is really, really important. And I think a lot of us underestimate the lengths that teachers will go to us for us to help us if we are just honest with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. How to generate energy after school to continue working. This was something that we did a video on last year.
Did we?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we did.
Yeah, I think you will have that energy. I think the most important thing is making a habit of it. Definitely willpower and motivation are a little bit overrated. I think that discipline is probably more important than willpower and motivation. If you get home every day from school and you spend half an hour doing study, if you do that often, even if it's not comfortable or nice, within a few weeks of doing it consistently, your brain will just automatically be in that mode to get stuff done.
I actually think you're 100% right. You can have all the motivation in the world, and this is coming from someone who experiences this. I'll have bouts where I'm so motivated, and I will still sit on the couch because I've got no discipline to actually make myself do that work. I think we underestimate discipline sometimes.
Yeah, and it's definitely about you're much more likely to, if you want to do something consistently. So if you want to study consistently or you want to exercise consistently, whatever, you're much more likely to do it if you make it a regularly scheduled part of your day.
Yeah.
If you decide, when I get home from school, straight away I open my book 30 minutes and I study. And you make that an embedded part of your routine, it's much more likely to happen rather than if you try to change it up every day and vary it, because then you have to think about doing it. Whereas if you do it at a consistent time, whenever you get home,
make it automatic.
It becomes automatic.
And something that can help facilitate those habits is having things set up beforehand, my desk is clear, so as soon as I get home, I can't give myself the excuse of, I've got to tidy up my room, make sure the feng shui is right before I'm in the right headset, because I'm guilty of it, so that's why I can say it. But, give yourself no excuses, by making sure, before you leave for school, that your desk is clear. Something as small as that can be really, really good and motivating, or not motivating, but just eliminating excuses, I guess.
Yeah.
Sometimes those routines can be super helpful as well. Coming home and then you clear your desk, that can be the trigger for the habit of doing study.
Yeah. And I guess one more thing I'd mention is if you want a way of re-energizing your body, the two best ways are get yourself moving for half an hour, whether that be going for a run or just going and playing frisbee or walking your dog or something like that. Literally anything that gets you moving. Yeah, literally anything that gets you moving.
Yeah.
For half an hour.
Even if you're just pacing the hallway.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be very boring. But.
And the other thing is 20-minute power nap. And when I say 20 minutes, I mean 20 minutes, not 23 minutes. 20 minutes, you set an alarm for 20 minutes, and as soon as it rings, you get up.
Yeah.
I do that all the time. Another pro tip: if you drink coffee, get a large cup of coffee.
And just maximize it.
Wait till you can drink the whole thing in one gulp. You don't want to burn your mouth or anything, and then scull it down, and then have a 20-minute power nap. No jokes. It's called a coffee nap. It'll change your life.
What is this?
Yeah,
I've never heard of this in my life.
Yeah, it takes 25 to 30 minutes for caffeine to kick in.
Right.
So you drink it, and then when you wake up, not only
you clear the adenosine through the nap, and the coffee then binds, and
you wake up just wired. I'm ready to go.
If you want to drink the coffee faster, iced coffee works really well. And if you can drink black coffee, drinking black iced coffee, you can scull that real easily.
Don't mess with caffeine pills, people.
No.
They're not
No dose, not your mate.
Yeah.
No.
There's some advice on how to use coffee.
Coffee's the greatest drug ever, honestly. And honestly, there's a theory that it triggered the period of enlightenment because people stopped drinking beer and started drinking coffee.
Yeah, no, I've read it.
I don't know how valid or anything it is, but it makes sense.
It's got some on the face of it, it's got face validity.
Yeah. Seems right.
Yeah. It theoretically increases productivity because people used to drink beer and stuff in the morning because
something to
water
get you through the day.
That, and water wasn't water quality wasn't great. History.
Okay, so that was all of our questions on sort of New Year anxiety, but we had sort of another few things about balancing subjects. So we had a question about somebody who's doing Gateway. You guys all know what Gateway is, yeah?
Relatively
so
speaking.
they've got like one day a week where they go out on placement in like either like a workplace, or they might be doing like a trade or something like that. So they've got one day a week where they're not in class. So how to not get too behind, considering that you're going to be consistently missing like a day of school and theoretically those periods. I think firstly, your teachers should know your schedule. So any teachers that aren't aware that you are doing Gateway, I would be very clear with them about that, so they know that you will be regularly not in class, because they will get a little bit irate if they do. Like theoretically they should know anyway, but just make sure that you have directly communicated that with them as well. And through that as well, teachers can help you in that kind of thing by either letting you know what will be covered in class that day, potentially pages on a workbook or something that has been done. It might mean that you do have to do some catch-up stuff later on, but that's kind of the nature of the beast of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
What about you?
I think that's good advice, making sure your teacher knows, and then like if you need to, like almost having some time set aside each week, like say like
even if you have like a study period or something.
Like use it, like assigning your Thursday study period, or like an hour on Thursdays after school, and that's your time that you try to catch up on whatever you missed.
And one thing I would like to point out as well is you can put it down to, say you've got 6 periods in a day, so theoretically Gateway is one of your subjects, so that takes one of those periods, so you're missing like 5 periods a day. You might think that that's like 5 hours worth of work, but it really isn't. So each period probably has about 20 minutes worth of actual work and 40 minutes of fluff.
Yeah.
And so if you're...
Depending on the teacher.
Depending on the teacher, but like as a rule of thumb, you know, it's like trying to get a class of 25 to 30 kids to all focus is like herding cats. So you have to understand that a lot of
What
times...
did you say?
Herding cats.
You actually...
You can't herd cats.
There we go. We all good, Sarah?
I just wanted to show I have that correctly.
Sweet. So, like, one thing to bear in mind is that if you focus for like 20 minutes, you can easily smash out the amount of work that a teacher had prepared for one period with a bunch of students. Do you guys agree with that? Or I mean, again, depending on the teacher. But
and also you'll have friends in the class, or like people you know in the class, so maybe you can like get their notes and ask for supplementary material and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So try not to let like that time component of it really, really stress you out, because it's
you're not missing. You don't have to make up 5 hours a week.
Balancing school and working. Did you guys work when you were at high school?
Yeah.
So what was your experience, I guess, with that?
I guess like, I don't know, it depends how much you're working as well. I feel like that's a key variable, but a lot of it is just like, I don't know, especially a lot of the jobs that, like, I know the jobs I had at high school and jobs most people have at high school are kind of jobs you can clock in and clock out of. So like when you're at work, like you focus on your work, but then like outside of work, you just like, if you're working like after schools or times you may have studied otherwise, like try to rearrange those. So like say you work every afternoon after school, instead of trying to do your like homework when you get home at like 8 o'clock when you're tired, like locking in, like, even if it's just half an hour, like in the morning, every morning, and doing it then instead. But just making sure anytime that you like I feel like a lot of people imagine that they spend all this time on school, outside of school, but they actually don't. So just like accounting for the time you actually would have spent outside of school on schoolwork, if you didn't have a joke, and doing it at another time.
One of the other things is, if you find that you are working a lot and you don't have a lot of time outside of school to be doing other work and stuff like that, be proactive in class and actually use that class time effectively, because like we said before, like a period probably has 20-25 minutes worth of work actually in it, because there's a lot of trying to think of an example that doesn't have a curse word in it. Never mind. You know what I mean. I don't know.
No, we generally don't.
As a rule of
swearing's lame anyway.
Wow. You heard it here first.
Straight up.
Cussing is a no from study. I'm kidding. We can't endorse
Can we put that on a poster?
We can't endorse that.
Swearing is a no from study time.
So if you know that you won't have a lot of time, really try to maximize the stuff that you're doing in class, especially if there are things like you're doing internals after school that you theoretically could have been doing in class. Like, you're stressing yourself out because the time that you've been given, you wasted. So that's kind of another thing to bear in mind. What about you working in high school? How was that for you?
It wasn't too bad. I worked as a tennis coach, so I taught little kids how to play tennis, which was real fun. And I sort of worked like 2 or 3 hours every day after school. And I found that just preparing for that time that I wouldn't be able to do any work, and then thinking how would I best be able to use the time where I'm not working and not at school. And like Saren said, I wasted so much time thinking that I was doing schoolwork when in fact I wasn't really doing anything useful, as kind of maybe like sitting at a desk or like rereading old notes. You'd be surprised how much you can get done in an hour if you focus really hard.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've said this before, and I think Saren called me out as a weird flex, but I feel like it helps my argument here. So when I was in high school in year 12 and year 13, I worked 2 jobs, which meant that I worked...
That is a weird
Yes. Okay, but I need to explain it, because what it meant for me was that I worked on the weekend and after school, which is where I was getting with it. Thank you, team. Weird flex, but okay.
Yeah, I had 3 jobs. No.
But the what I mean by that is I did have times where I would finish work at like 8:30 at night and then do my homework, just because there wasn't really an option around that. Oh, and sometimes I did do it in the morning, but I think I'd rather do it at night than in mornings, because I'm not a morning person. But by that, I think I did try to maximise the time in class, particularly because I knew I had a busy schedule. And I think that's something to bear in mind. Also, being clear with your employers. Not everyone is prone to this, but I know I definitely am. I struggle to say no.
Yeah. I had this.
But at the end of the day, school is most important. And if you want to save money and stuff like that, that's all well and good. But bear in mind that don't lose sight of what is your biggest priority. Would be one of my biggest pieces of advice.
Yeah, if you start off by doing say one weekend, one Saturday shift, that's
and it
cool.
turns into 2 because they's understaffed.
Yeah, and then it turns be clear with know what you want, and if you only want to work 1 day a week, that's all right, and you shouldn't feel pressured to extend that. I say this as someone who took on too much work this week because people called me and were like, "Can you do this?"
In saying that though, that's something you want to be very explicit about to potential employers. You don't want to be catfishing them and saying that you can do a lot more than what you actually can. Be honest, because then from the get-go there'll be no confusion.
Yeah. But
and that may theoretically reduce job opportunities, but at the same time it will incredibly reduce your stress. So
also working on how to talk with employers honestly about expectations and stuff is a really valuable skill. There's nothing worse from a manager's perspective when someone's like, I can do X amount of hours, and they know that they can actually only do half of those. It's really frustrating from a manager's perspective when that happens. So being able to honestly communicate that sort of stuff is a really important skill. Yeah.
Awesome. So moving on to our next sort of theme was mostly just about subjects in particular. Excuse me. So something was about repeating internal papers and if you didn't do well at them. And I wasn't 100% sure if this student was asking between levels. So forgive me if I don't address exactly what it was that you're asking. But repeating internal papers is something that can theoretically be done, but it should be something it depends on your school and it depends on your teachers. Because quite often teachers are okay with you doing re-subs throughout the year, if you're on a grade boundary and there's one little thing that you need to fix up. Most teachers will let you do that in a lunch period or something like that, and that's easy as. But sometimes they will let you do a resit. Thing to bear in mind here is you can't ask that too much of your teachers, because that is a lot of work for your teachers.
Yeah, they have to mark it.
and it depends on what it is. A lot of science experiments, teachers won't let you be able to do it twice because either it spends a lot of time gathering the data, or something like that. Or quite often they actually have to create a new experiment again. They can't let you do the exact same one. And as you can understand, that sort of becomes quite a bit more time consuming.
Yeah. And remember, like, you're just one of your teachers might have 200 students.
Yeah.
But it never hurts to ask.
Yeah, it never hurts to ask.
The worst that they can say is no. And then that just gives you an indication of the boundaries.
Yeah. I would say the only time where logistically a teacher can justify it is mostly in like science experiments and stuff like that, because they have to change the nature of it. But also do bear in mind, like, your teachers only have like limited time, and they would have to spend time fully remarking a new piece of work. And
most teachers work really, really hard.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes.
Despite popular opinion.
Yeah.
From students, not from, the rest of society, but you know what I mean.
We back the teachers at study time.
We back anyone who's
teachers, I don't know.
We back anyone who wants education. A student is okay.
Bye everyone. Make sure to buy our walkthrough guides. I'm working really hard on them, and other people are working really hard on them, and they're going to be even better than last year.
Yeah, so we're making them better.
Yeah.
Great integration.
We love that plug because
car keys, everyone.
Oh, I was like,
he was sitting on that the whole time. That's the only reason he came in here.
Wow. I feel cheated on now.
I love that.
We're being lied to.
I love that so much. We had a couple of students ask about being worried about the difficulty of starting new subjects. So particularly those going into biology, chemistry and physics, as opposed to at level 1 when you only do it as one big cohesive subject. So students are worried about the difficulty of it. And the first thing I would like to say is the sciences were like one of my favourite subjects in NCEA because it was so much clearer than a lot of other topics. I feel like the way, just naturally as being a part of like sciences and stuff like that, there is much more of a clear structure, like do this, don't do this kind of nature to it.
Yeah, in NCEA science especially, compared to like our good friend NCEA English.
Yeah, and sort of some of my biggest advice for that kind of thing is making sure that you're aware of your own strengths and weaknesses and stuff like that. I think one of the biggest things that can make science difficult for students is if they potentially miss a lesson or they struggle to understand a certain concept, it creates gaps in your knowledge and stuff like that. So one of my biggest pieces of advice would be to make sure that you are at least keeping up with the pace of the class, which really shouldn't be, that's not a big ask. Like, if you just pay attention in class, that's enough. And like, if you are unsure of something, even just going back in your workbook or something like that and having it clarified, or using one of our checklists, or if you do have some of our walkthrough guides, using that, or checking out the ones that are available online as well. All those are there to help you get an idea of what is in a standard and what should be expected of you. But also having that transparency with your teachers again, just having that communication. What is it that you're expecting of me, and all that kind of thing.
Here's a controversial statement. Actually, maybe not that controversial, but high school English is kind of weird, eh? High
school English is awful.
It's not.
I'm sorry, I'm going to put this out here. Anyone ask me about NCEA English, I hate it.
It's not.
I like English, I don't like NCEA English. It's not English. It's not English.
NCEA English is like quasi-philosophy.
So NCEA English is not English because they don't teach the English language.
Yeah.
They don't. They teach you how to overly analyse the Truman Show. I'm sorry, I feel very passionately about. I'm going to have to tap out of this conversation now before I get fired for something. But no, I'm kidding.
Like if you go study like English lit at uni,
English literature,
very different.
Not the same thing as English at high school at all. That's genuinely my biggest beef with NCEA is the way that English is taught, because I think it's god awful. If you're in year 12 and you don't know how to use a full stop, don't feel bad, because there's a lot of students that don't, because it's not taught and teachers just expect you to know it. Oh my god, let's go to a different question. But
are you going to survive?
Yeah, I'm going to survive. It's fine. It's fine.
Do we need to like get some?
I want a slow, close zoom on my face while Mad World plays. Is all I want. No, it's fine. I'll sip some water. It's fine. But just for the sciences and stuff, I think a lot of students are worried about it. But I think compared to a lot of other subjects, such as English, I found it much less frustrating. to go through as a human.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say don't be too worried about it, and give it a chance before you really experience it. If you're going off what other people have told you before, I wouldn't really take that too much into account, honestly.
Neat.
Doing correspondence.
Yeah. What about it? Just doing it.
Just tips, thoughts.
I don't know.
How to do it.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not the best person to ask.
The thing about correspondence, the biggest piece of advice is
that level of effort put into that answer.
That's fine. You know where you don't know. That's fine. My biggest piece of advice is practicing patience, because it won't be marked within your school. It can take a couple months for at least one thing to be graded, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that. So likely what will happen is you will be sent out papers periodically throughout the year, and they're essentially just workbooks that you have to fill out. And they'll be sent off again, and you'll have someone mark it for you, and you'll sit stuff between them. The biggest thing here is just having that self-motivation to actually do it. What is likely the case is you have a study period rather than the free slot that you would have otherwise had a subject in. So you do have allocated time to be doing that kind of work, and just like any other subject, you shouldn't have to do too much outside of that as long as you are using that time efficiently. Is my biggest piece of advice for correspondence, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that analysis.
Do we have English and Maths study guides for Year 13?
We have Calc and Stats, so those are the two Year 13 Maths. We don't have English at the moment. Keep your eyes peeled.
Yeah, it's in the works. But if you are wanting some English advice, feel free to. We have level 2 English, eh? Or is it just level 1?
No, it's just level 1 at the moment.
Even if you just check out the level 1 guide, I know it seems like there is only a couple levels, but there is a lot of good stuff in there that is applicable.
Because we actually teach the core skills of English, like how to write properly.
Weird.
Wow.
So there is a lot of the fundamentals in there, and remember, English is very much one of those subjects that just builds upon itself every year and becomes slightly more difficult.
Yeah.
They want you to be slightly more comprehensive, so instead of the blue curtains making you sad, they make you depressed. I'm sorry, I really can't talk about NCA English.
Wow,
I'm sorry, I take it back.
so
Filter me out.
Wholesome.
Anyway, shall we call this the jaded half hour? But yeah, so we do have those, but even check out the English guide for a rough idea. But they are in the works.
You know what I want? I want a wow button. Like, you know how on radios they have that on some
I
radio
want it to
shows
be
they have
Owen
those, like,
Wilson though.
effects?
Can it be
Oh
Owen
yeah,
Wilson?
we can have the original.
But it's various different wows. Every now and then we might get like a wow. You know, it sounds a little bit like Waluigi.
Yeah, is he Australian?
Waluigi?
No.
Owen Wilson?
No. American? No, okay. I don't know why. Sorry.
So, another question was, how time-consuming is scholarship? The student in particular asked about economics and English, I think, but I just thought I'd extend it to all of scholarship. So
it depends.
Essentially,
is the short answer.
The biggest thing about scholarship is it's kind of all the level 3 externals kind of put together in one big exam. So the biggest thing there is cross-knowledge across externals. And this is something that a lot of students struggle with even between subjects, like rearranging in physics and rearranging in maths. Students treat them like they're two different concepts, even though they're not. The same rules apply. Really, a lot of it is just putting all that knowledge together into one cohesive argument, or being able to use skills from one paper and skills from another paper. In terms of it being time consuming, I wouldn't say too much, because it is just additive of the kind of stuff that you theoretically should be doing throughout the year. The fact that you're even thinking about it this early in the year is a really good thing. I didn't even start studying for scholarship history until probably about midway through the year.
Yeah, and it is one of those that, like, you can put a lot of time into it, but you don't always have to, depending on...
Yeah, your return on scholarship is very interesting.
Yeah, return on scholarship is kind of random. So, like there's also nothing wrong with, like, if you really want to invest in it and go for it, like, that's cool.
Yeah,
but there's also nothing wrong with, there's nothing wrong with not doing scholarship, but there's also nothing wrong with, like, come September, October, like, enrolling in it and only doing, like, you know, a few hours of study before the exam and going for it anyway. Because it is one of those things where, like, it's not like a straight, like, check mark system like your classic NCA exam. There's a bit more, it's a bit more open to interpretation. Yeah. So you can definitely, like, show up on the day, and depending on the question and depending on how the other candidates do, your odds can be quite good.
Yeah, and with scholarship as well, about a third of people who even are enrolled in it don't even turn up to the exam.
Like if you enroll,
or don't sit the exam. Like they might attend, but just not attempt.
If you enroll and show up, your odds are already like pretty decent.
Like a lot higher.
Like it's worth just showing up.
Yeah, honestly, a scholarship is a little bit of a weird concept too. I think particularly for those in smaller schools. I know a lot of bigger schools sort of have a focus on scholarship a lot earlier in the year. And while that can be handy for a lot of students, I really wouldn't think that it's necessary. I know people who got like, you know, outstanding scholarships based off like, you know, only a few weeks of study beforehand.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that that works for everyone, but I'm just trying to give you an idea of how achievable it actually is.
You can definitely rely on more holistic subject knowledge than you could with a traditional external. With a traditional external, you really have to be able to take all those key skills.
Yeah.
But with like a scholarship, a lot of the time, if you know kind of the holistic, how the subject works more holistically, even if you can't do like specific skills, you can often get away with it.
Yeah. And you know, if heaps of you guys do have questions more about scholarship, we can get someone in who knows a little bit more about it. If that is something that you guys are interested in, just let us know. Shall we?
What does that sound? That's what I like.
It's just being Basque.
Oh, they're doing construction. Oh yeah. At least they're not playing music. That's the one.
Is
that
that preferable? I don't know.
I know when they play music because you can hear it in the recording. It's horrible.
So our next topic is, there's two questions, but they're kind of the same. And it's
I'm
mostly.
A Grinch. I hate life. I hate people who play music. Music's not allowed.
And this was kind of people actually asking our thoughts on things. So mostly it was being offered level 3 papers in level 2, or do you think it's best if we skip some level 2 and go straight to level 3?
Depends on who you are, depends what you want to do. So like being offered level 3 and level 2, like the whole of level 3, or like just select
certain papers?
I don't think there's anything, like there's no harm. Like if you're offered to do it, like you might as well. Like it's not like obviously level 3 is harder than level 2, but it's not like it's fundamentally different.
I think a lot of level 2, particularly, I feel you want to take a topic like bio. I'm sorry that we only talk about certain subjects a lot. These are the subjects that like we teach or like we know well. Bio in particular, the standards at level 2 and the standards at level 3, particularly for the externals, I would argue, not necessarily, like I would say level 3 is a bit more difficult, but overall they're quite different to each other. They're all bio and they're all interrelated concepts, but
it's not like you're going from like a 5 out of 10 difficulty to a 10 out of 10 difficulty.
My personal thoughts on it. What about you?
On being offered level 3,
or I guess even crossing levels across years in general.
I don't think it's terrible. I don't think it's super necessary either. I'm quite indifferent. Yeah.
I think ultimately everyone comes to the same endpoint.
Yeah.
So I think if it's something you want to do,
there's nothing wrong with it, but there's nothing brilliant about it either.
Yeah. Like if you want to, you can. The only thing that I really don't like is when schools force students to go ahead levels, which can happen in schools. I vehemently dislike that. I think that students should be at the level that they are unless they've been offered or unless they've been requested. Taking the choice out of the students' hands is where I don't like it. And
if you're considering like not doing like a one internal, but like a whole year's worth of a course, think about this, like unless you plan on leaving school a year early, which is not a thing for 99% of people. So if you...
I think that's...
98?
85.
80.
A lot more people leave than what you think.
Let me correct. Unless you plan on leaving school early and going to university, which only 90...
99, yep.
Yeah, so most people are going to finish level 3 and then, like in year 13 and then go to university.
Yeah.
So if you're doing level 3 early, consider that, like, are you going to get, like, would you get better grades if you just did it at the normal rate? Like, what do you have to gain by doing it now?
Yeah. And I think if it's only going to be a source of stress, I potentially really wouldn't do it. But if you're someone who likes having that kind of challenge and you want that, then 100% go for it. I think it is entirely dependent on the student.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, cool. I agree with that analysis.
Some last sort of miscellaneous kind of questions that we got. Students who haven't gotten their papers yet and they're worried about reconsiderations. So if you haven't gotten your papers back yet, I would very much recommend getting in contact with NCEA.
The old ring the phone.
Yeah, they're going to be definitely a lot less busy than they were when results first came out, so it should be easy enough to get in contact with them. That would be my biggest piece of advice. Reconsiderations.
Supposedly the date got extended.
Oh, really?
I haven't verified this information. I just heard this anecdotally. I'll verify this. Or not. I was going to say I'd verify this, but...
I'll keep talking while you do that.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, just give them a call.
Yeah,
just give them a call.
I think give them a call and see what the status is on that kind of thing. I think if you haven't gotten your papers back yet and you did want to send something away for reconsideration and it was past that like kind of due date, but it's been entirely out of your control, I'm sure that they can use some of their discretion to make it work.
Yeah. Give them a call, because if they know about it now, then it's hard. They can't down the line say you're getting it later.
The best offense is good defense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can introduce.
Okay, so this one made Siren giggle, but we also kind of feel really sorry for you. So I lied about my grades to my parents, and I want to be honest, but I'm in too deep.
There's a lot of variables to consider here.
How bad was the lie?
Yeah, how bad was the lie?
How big was it?
Did
you fudge and achieve to a merit, or did you fudge and achieve to an excellence endorsement?
This is why. Did you? Okay, this is saying if you're year 13, did you get UE or did you not? And do you want to go to UE? If you did get UE and you got into UE and that's what you want to do, then it doesn't matter if you lied. If you didn't get UE but you wanted to get into uni and you didn't, then it kind of matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where I draw the line. I didn't have a particularly good year 13 exam season, but I got UE, so it didn't really matter.
Yeah, I think having that kind of, it depends on how much your parents worry about your grades. I know my parents, I know a lot of people had like big incentives if they've got, which isn't awesome. Incentivizing it isn't awesome. Like I remember coming back at the, I remember talking to my friends and we were all talking about when we told our parents about our grades. So I remember I told I told my mum about the day that I got enough credits to get my excellence endorsement at, I think, maybe like level 2. And I think she was like cleaning out the fridge at the time. She was like, "Well done, honey, I'm so proud of you."
Yeah.
And like, that was it. And that was okay. I'm not saying that in a bad way. I like that. I always like my parents' attitudes towards school.
My parents
but they didn't.
There was no financial incentive to do that.
I had friends that were like, "Oh, I got my excellence endorsement and my parents are giving me like X amount of money." And it's like, oh, really?
Yeah, I don't really,
Sorry for anyone out there who has that, and that, if that is what motivates you, like...
It's a short-lived strategy in life, because
guess what? You're not going to have someone dangle a carrot in front of you to do everything in your life.
Yeah, like there has to be a level of like self-motivation and
and interest.
like just feeling accomplished with yourself when you do something. Like you have to realize that like a lot of things in life you are ultimately achieving for you. Like if you want to, like, I don't know, one thing I've been working on for the last few years is I want to like just feel like less anxious and just feel like more relaxed a lot more of the time. And like no one else, like if I feel less anxious, like that doesn't that's not going to affect anyone else like positively, at least not to the level it affects me in a positive way. So like ultimately that's my accomplishment and I should feel happy if I can like make progress towards it.
Yeah. Back to lying about the grades though.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Got too holistic.
I'm not sure what you mean when you say you're in too deep. I think if it was like your level 1 grades or something like that, and it's really not something your parents are ever going to think about again or return to. They're not going to ask for verification later on. You could probably bury it.
Yeah, shove that one under the rug.
However, if it does become pressing, I think it is better to be honest.
Yeah.
I wouldn't endorse continuing the lie. I would either go let it die somewhere or
try
bury that boy and forget that he existed.
Because
or wait 6 months, say what your grades were again, and have your parents turn around and say, wait, I thought you got this, and you'd be like, what? I never told you that.
Yeah, you can do that as well. That works. But
play on the deteriorating memory.
It's an understandable thing to feel disappointed in your grades, and then to like lie about it or like not be truthful about it. Like there's nothing, like it's not like an unjust reason to lie per se. Like obviously lying is not like the best way to do things, but like I don't like I feel like most parents would understand like if you were disappointed in your grades, and you didn't want them to know. Like that's
I think that's definitely part of it. Is sorry to get like this. We started this light, but I do want to genuinely say if that is something that does genuinely really worry you, that might be something you potentially even have to address with your parents if you feel like they are putting a lot of pressure on you and have that expectation of you. I think that that's something that you need to address, especially if you are going to you've still got a couple of years of high school, a couple of years of NCEA and that kind of thing where you will be living with them, and so grades and that kind of thing does regularly come up and they have more control over that kind of thing. If that becomes increasingly harmful and stressful for you, I think that is definitely worth addressing. Cool. Just for the simple fact that if you are lying about that kind of thing,
we've been going for almost an hour now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question. Someone who is anxious about moving away from home to start uni, and the biggest thing that I wanted to say about this one was a lot about like just sitting next, not going to a new class and not knowing anybody in that class. Everyone at uni is stressed about moving away and going to uni, and the biggest thing to understand is that everyone's new, everyone feels wants
the same way.
Somebody else to introduce them to them.
Yeah.
Be that person, or at least know in the back of your mind that everyone else is also scared.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That's one of my biggest things, but it'll be a lot of fun, and it'll be stressful for maybe a day or two. You might get a little bit homesick, but then you realise that you can never live with your parents again. So.
Thanks so much for watching, guys. Remember that stuff we said at the beginning, highlights, drop them in the comments with the timestamps, ideas for the set, and what do you want to see from us this year? People, topics, whatever, let us know.
Or what you don't want to see. Do you want to get rid of us? Mutiny.
Yeah, don't. If you want to replace us, you can say that, and our boss will see it, and maybe we'll get fired.
Our lives are in your hands. And on that note, guys, welcome back to the Wholesome Half Hour.
Yeah, but it's an hour because we don't understand time management.
Bye.
Bye. Cool.
I really have to pee. I was hunching that entire time because I was just trying to hold my pee in.
Thinking about you as I'm lying next to someone new. Drinking without you doesn't fix it, but it kinda helps. Oh, I